All right, so get this. We're diving deep into the world of Grand Theft Auto 5, but not in the way you might be thinking.
Yeah, not the way you think.
Forget all the mayhem and the chaos and the crime.
Right. None of that.
This is all about staying legal.
As legal as possible.
In a city where, let's be honest, anything can happen.
Yeah, you said it.
So what makes this so interesting is we're actually looking at a YouTube video transcript
Right?
of this streamer, DougDoug,
DougDoug, yeah.
and he's trying to navigate this virtual world
Trying to play by the rules.
while staying totally on the right side of the law.
It's a tough job.
It is a tough job.
In Los Santos.
So picture this. He's driving around
In Los Santos.
Los Santos trying to take selfies.
At these famous landmarks.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, you would think.
But there's a catch.
Oh, there's always a catch.
Every 30 seconds,
30 seconds.
his Twitch chat can throw in a curveball.
Yeah, they have a little something called a chaos mod.
Okay, I've heard of this.
It's crazy.
So for those of you who maybe haven't spent much time in GTA Online,
If you haven't experienced this,
just imagine.
like random events just constantly popping up.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen next.
Anything could happen.
So you're, cruising along, you're following all the rules,
Being a good virtual citizen.
and bam, you're invisible.
Perfect
Or
time.
gravity flips. A whale lands on your car.
Yeah, it happens.
How do you even begin to think about traffic laws at that point?
It's mind-boggling.
That's where Doug's approach gets really fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
He's actually trying to apply
A real world.
real-world legal logic
To these crazy situations.
to these insane situations.
And to make it even crazier,
Oh, it gets better.
he's got his friend Parker
Parker. I love Parker.
giving him legal advice
The legal expert.
throughout the whole game.
There's just one little detail.
One tiny thing.
Parker's not actually a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer.
Not even close.
So we're left wondering, is Parker's advice legit?
Right.
Or is it just for laughs?
It's hard to tell.
It really is.
And it makes you think.
Could Doug actually use any of this in a real courtroom?
Who knows? Let's break down some of these scenarios.
Okay, let's get into it.
Early on in the game,
Okay.
Doug
Cruro.
gets dosed with LSD.
LSD.
And not by choice.
Not willingly, no.
His chat voted for him.
Of course they did.
So now he's tripping
Tripping out.
while driving,
Oh, man.
trying to figure out, is this illegal?
That's a classic DougDoug move, right?
Got to get the audience involved.
But in this case, it actually raises a really interesting legal question about intent.
Intent.
Like, would a real-world court even consider that he was involuntarily drugged?
You would hope so.
You would hope so, right?
Well,
Let's get your take on this.
in a lot of places,
Yeah.
unknowingly being drugged
Knowingly.
can be a valid defense
Interesting.
against a DUI. So it really hinges on.
Proving you weren't willingly impaired.
Exactly. It's a
Ugh.
whole other legal battle.
That's a whole other can of worms.
That's
possible. So even in this crazy scenario,
right?
you've got a real legal concept at play.
You do.
It really makes you wonder what other seemingly simple actions
Like everyday things,
might have all these hidden legal layers.
you never know.
You never know.
Well, how about this?
Okay, give me another one.
Doug is in the middle of the street,
Okay.
gets attacked by someone with an axe.
An axe.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Parker tells him
Of course he does.
it's totally fine to drive on the sidewalk.
To escape the axe-wielding maniac.
To escape?
Okay, wait, hold on.
What?
Isn't driving on the sidewalk always illegal?
You would think?
I mean, I get escaping danger.
I understand the situation.
But wouldn't that be hard to justify in court?
It could be.
It could be, right?
Legally.
Okay.
It often comes down to
So what?
proportionality of force.
Okay, what does that even mean?
So Fordo's driving on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
The only reasonable escape route
I see.
a court would have to look at
Like weigh the danger.
against the traffic violation.
Oh, okay.
So it wouldn't be an easy case.
Nah.
Not open and shut.
This is why I love these scenarios.
It really makes you think.
They force you to think about the law in a totally new way.
For sure.
And speaking of unexpected legal arguments,
Oh, yeah.
there's this whole thing with force majeure.
Force majeure. Yes.
That comes up a lot.
Right.
So for those who maybe haven't heard of this term,
It's a fun one.
it's a fun one.
Basically says
You're not liable
you're not responsible.
if something totally out of your control causes harm.
Right.
So Doug tries to use this
As a defense
when things get really wild.
when it gets wild.
Like when meteors start falling from the sky.
Because of the chaos mod.
So he's arguing that a meteor shower caused by his Twitch chat
Yeah.
is an act of God.
It's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell, right? I mean, come on.
The concept of force majeure is actually valid.
Okay.
Think about like a hurricane
Okay.
flying down your fence.
Yeah.
You're not at fault because it's an act of nature.
Right.
It's out of your control.
Okay, I get that. But a meteor shower caused by online viewers.
That's pushing it.
That's really pushing it.
It definitely blurs the lines.
It does.
The question becomes,
Yeah.
is the chaos mod truly an unforeseeable event
Right.
when it's literally part of the challenge?
You know what it's like saying you're not responsible for crashing your car because you chose to drive with your eyes closed.
Right.
Like you knew the risk going in.
Exactly.
But even though Doug might be stretching that definition a little bit,
A bit.
it still highlights how even in a video game,
Yeah.
you have to consider context.
Okay.
When you're applying real-world law
Always the context.
and sometimes common sense.
Common sense.
Just trumps legal technicalities.
Sometimes.
Which leads us to what might be the most hilarious moment in this whole thing.
This is my favorite part.
The taxi driver solution.
The taxi driver solution.
So after hours of struggling to stay legal amidst all this chaos,
Amidst the chaos.
Parker randomly suggests that Doug just call a taxi.
Call a taxi.
You're kidding me?
Just get a ride.
All this time, the simplest answer was right there.
It was right there.
Why didn't he think of that earlier?
I know.
It's brilliant.
It's a comedic masterpiece.
It really is. It reminds us that even in this crazy virtual world,
Even in Los Santos
sometimes the most practical solution.
is the most obvious one.
It makes you wonder, though, did he ever actually try the taxi strategy?
We need to find out.
We need to find out.
But before we get into that,
Okay.
there's another legal hiccup we need to talk about.
Oh, there's more.
Remember the whole front license plate thing?
Oh, right. I totally forgot about that.
I almost forgot.
So it turns out,
Yeah.
even in a video game,
Even in the virtual world,
California law requires a front license plate.
gotta have it.
And Doug learns this the hard way.
He does.
Parker, once again, dropping that legal knowledge,
The legal eagle.
reminding us that even these seemingly small details
Yeah.
can have legal consequences.
You never know.
You'd think in a game where whales fall from the sky,
You would think.
a missing license plate would be the least of your worries.
Right.
But it shows how he's really thinking about every action.
He's meticulously analyzing everything.
Through this real-world legal lens.
It's amazing.
It really is. It's a fascinating legal thought experiment.
It is.
Played out in this incredibly entertaining way.
Doug is the best.
But even with his best efforts,
And Parker's questionable advice.
Doug's luck eventually runs out.
It had to happen.
In an absurd twist,
This twist.
he gets convicted of this made-up
Felony bug crime.
felony bug crime,
That gets him.
sent to virtual prison.
Virtual prison.
Poor Doug.
I feel bad for him.
All that effort to stay legal,
All that effort.
and he's taken down by a virtual insect.
A bug.
It's a good reminder that this is
At the end of the day.
a comedy challenge within a video game.
It's all for fun.
But the story doesn't end there.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. It gets better.
It does. Our legal expert.
Takes over Doug's YouTube channel.
He takes the reins.
And what does he do?
What does he do?
Does he give legal advice for other gamers?
Good guess.
Does he start a virtual law firm?
Nope.
He pivots the content to...
To reading
You're kidding?
the California Penal Code.
He's actually reading the legal code.
He is.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
It's the perfect ending
It really is.
to this whole adventure.
It's like he's saying, all right, enough messing around.
Let's get serious.
Let's get serious about this legal stuff.
I love it. It's a hilarious meta commentary on the whole challenge.
It really is.
And it just shows
It shows that,
exploring the law.
exploring the law. It doesn't have to be all like,
Dry and boring.
dry and boring.
It can be engaging and thought-provoking.
Absolutely.
And yes, even downright funny.
For sure.
So who would have thought that watching someone play GTA 5
Right.
could lead us to this deep dive into legal concepts?
It's amazing.
It's amazing how something as simple as traffic laws
Yeah.
can become so fascinating
Right.
when you throw in some chaos
And a questionable legal advisor.
and a questionable legal advisor.
There's a recipe for entertainment.
So what stands out to you about how Doug tackles this challenge?
Well, I'm really impressed by his dedication
To the rules.
to playing by the rules.
Even when faced with all these crazy obstacles, he's actually trying to be a good virtual citizen.
A good citizen.
Which, let's be honest, is not the typical GTA experience.
Not at all.
It really highlights this tension.
Just tension.
between following the rules
Right.
and adapting to completely unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, like in the real world.
In the real world.
Laws are designed to create
But order and predictability.
order and predictability.
But what happens when that predictability is just totally shattered?
Like when a whale lands on your car.
Like when a whale lands on your car.
Exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Those chaotic elements.
Yeah.
They really force him to think on his feet.
And make those split-second decisions.
It's impressive.
It really is.
Even if it is just in a virtual setting.
Yeah.
It's still
impressive.
It's still a skill.
And we can't forget about the viewers.
The audience.
The audience. The fact that his fate is often decided by a Twitch chat vote.
Right.
Adds this whole other layer.
Of unpredictability.
Of unpredictability.
You wouldn't find that in a real courtroom.
No, you would not.
It turns the audience from passive viewers
into active participants.
They become the jury.
They're the jury.
In this virtual legal drama.
Which I think speaks to how we engage with information these days.
How we engage with everything.
It's not just about watching anymore. It's about participating.
It's about debating.
Debating, shaping the narrative together.
Exactly.
And speaking of shaping the narrative.
Oh, yes.
We cannot overlook Parker's role in all of this.
The legal expert.
He might not be a real lawyer.
Not a real lawyer.
But his knowledge of the law is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
It makes you wonder,
what does it even mean?
What does it even mean to be a legal expert?
In a world where
information is so readily available.
At your fingertips.
I mean, anyone can just Google legal terms or watch YouTube videos.
Right.
About specific laws.
It's all out there.
But does that actually make them an expert?
That's a good question.
That's a tricky question.
You know, access to information is important.
It's definitely important.
But it's really just the first step.
It's the first step.
True expertise involves
understanding the context.
The nuances.
The nuances, how to apply the law in real-world situations.
Real-world application.
Like knowing when to call a taxi instead of trying to outrun a meteor shower.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real expertise right there.
And while Parker may not have gone to law school,
yeah,
he actually does demonstrate
solid understanding
of the law
by applying it to these crazy situations.
He puts it into practice.
It goes beyond just knowing the rules.
It really does.
It also highlights the importance of critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
And problem solving.
Problem solving.
Which are crucial skills in any profession.
In any profession.
But especially in law.
Especially in law.
So let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
Why should our listeners care?
Why should we care?
About the legal misadventures of a virtual character in a video game.
That's a good question.
What's the bigger takeaway here?
I think it's a reflection.
A reflection of what?
Of our own relationship with the law.
Okay.
And how we deal with the complexities.
The complexities.
Of a world that throws us curveballs all the time.
All the time.
It encourages us to think critically.
Think critically.
About the rules that govern our lives.
The rules we live by. To question assumptions.
Question everything.
And to consider different perspectives.
Different perspectives.
And maybe even find a little humor in the absurdity of it all.
A little bit of laughter.
Because sometimes life feels as unpredictable and nonsensical.
As a video game with a chaos mod turned on.
That's a great point.
And DougDoug's commitment.
His commitment to staying legal.
Yeah.
Even when he's surrounded by, flying whales and random explosions.
All the craziness.
It reminds us that we can still try to make sense of the world.
We can try.
Even when it's going completely bonkers.
Even when it's bonkers.
We look for patterns.
Patterns.
Rules. Explanations. It's human nature.
It's what we do.
And that's where the law comes in.
The law.
It gives us this framework for understanding our rights.
Our responsibilities.
And what happens when we break the rules?
What happens when we mess up?
It helps us navigate the messiness of human interaction.
All the messy.
Both in real life.
And apparently.
And in virtual worlds. And what better way to explore these ideas.
Yeah, I know, right.
Than through this chaotic,
hilarious
video game challenge.
It's unexpected.
It's engaging.
It makes you think.
It does.
It's like a crash course in legal concepts.
A crash course.
Disguised as a really entertaining video game stream.
Exactly.
Who knows? Maybe it'll inspire our listeners.
To start paying closer attention.
To legal aspects.
Of their everyday lives.
You never know what legal rabbit holes.
You might stumble upon.
Maybe
your next trip to the grocery store.
My next trip to the grocery store
will turn into a deep dive.
Into the legalities of food labeling. Or that casual conversation with a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Could lead you to uncover some obscure property law.
You never know.
The possibilities are endless.
Endless.
But speaking of possibilities,
Okay.
let's get back to DougDoug's story.
Let's get back to the story.
We left off with Parker taking over the YouTube channel.
Diving headfirst into the California Penal Code.
Talk about commitment.
I'm actually curious to hear what he has to say about it.
Me too.
It's like the ultimate test.
The ultimate test.
Of his legal knowledge. It's like he's gone from, armchair legal expert
to a full-blown law student.
to a full-on law student hitting the books.
I love it.
It's a reminder that there's always more to learn.
Always more to learn.
Even when you think you've got a grasp on things.
You never stop learning.
And that the journey of learning doesn't have to be boring.
No way.
It can be hilarious. It can be unexpected.
It can be driven by passion.
And driven by a passion for, in this case, the California Penal Code.
Of all things.
So to kind of wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what's the big takeaway you want our listeners to ponder?
I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier.
About what?
That power of critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
DougDoug's dedication to following the law. Even when faced with those absurd virtual challenges.
Right.
It shows how engaging with the world around us thoughtfully can be both fun and insightful.
It's like he's encouraging us to pay attention to the rules.
The rules.
Both written and unwritten.
Yeah.
That shape our lives.
That shape everything.
Even if those rules involve, avoiding falling whales.
And meteor showers.
In a video game.
Exactly.
It's about considering the consequences. Of our actions.
Of everything we do.
Even in the most unexpected circumstances.
Always.
And perhaps most importantly.
Yeah.
Remembering to find the humor.
The humor.
In the absurdity of it all.
Because life is absurd.
Life is absurd.
Like a video game with a chaos mod turned on.
It really is sometimes.
Sometimes the best we can do
is to what?
Try to understand the rules.
The rules.
Make the best decisions we can.
Make good choices.
And laugh along the way.
I love that.
Gotta find the joy.
Well said. I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
I think so too.
Listeners, we hope you enjoyed this wild ride.
Through
virtual law and chaotic gameplay.
It's been a journey.
We encourage you to keep exploring those unexpected intersections.
The intersections.
So the real and the virtual.
The serious and the silly.
You never know what fascinating insights you might uncover.
You never know.
Maybe your next trip to the grocery store.
The grocery store.
Will spark a deep dive into the legalities of produce labeling.
Produce labeling, who knew?
Or that casual conversation with a friend.
That friend you haven't seen in a while.
Could lead you down a rabbit hole of obscure property laws.
It could happen.
The possibilities are truly endless.
Endless possibilities.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.
And most importantly,
stay entertained.